Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where forgotten civilizations, unexplained wonders, and ancient secrets come back to life. Ready to unravel the mystery? Let's begin the journey. The Illuminati. The name itself whispers of a shadowy cabal, a secret society pulling the strings of world events from behind the curtain. They are blamed for everything from wars to revolutions. But the true story of the Illuminati is even stranger than the myth. It is the story of a real short-lived historical group that was transformed into the world's greatest conspiracy theory. Before the whispers of a global conspiracy, before the symbols on the dollar bill, before the myths of a shadowy cabal pulling the strings of history, there was a real group of people. The story of the Illuminati begins not in the smoke-filled backrooms of power or in the occult chambers of ancient bloodlines, but in the halls of academia, in the mind of a single, brilliant, and deeply frustrated young man. To understand the vast and complex conspiracy theory that surrounds the Illuminati today, we must first strip away the layers of myth and travel back to the late 18th century, to the German state of Bavaria. It was here, in an age of intellectual ferment and political repression, that the historical and very real order of the Illuminati was born. Its story is not one of world domination, but of radical ideas, secret structures, and a short, brilliant, and ultimately doomed existence. Our story begins with a man named Adam Weishaupt. Born in 1748 in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, Weishaupt was a product of his time. A man whose life and intellect were forged in the fires of the great intellectual movement known as the Enlightenment. This was an age of reason, a time when philosophers and thinkers across Europe were challenging the old, established orders of society. They championed the power of human reason over blind faith and superstition. They advocated for science, for individual liberty, for freedom of thought, and for a society based on morality and merit, not on noble birth or religious dogma. Weishaupt was a prodigy, and he absorbed these revolutionary ideas with a passion. He became a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt, a position that was remarkable because for the first time in centuries, it was a post held by a layman, not by a member of the powerful Jesuit order. This position placed Weishaupt directly in the crosshairs of the conservative and deeply religious establishment of Bavaria. The 18th century electorate of Bavaria was a bastion of traditionalism, an absolute monarchy heavily influenced and controlled by the Roman Catholic Church, particularly the Jesuits. For a freethinker like Weishaupt, this was a suffocating environment. He saw the power of the state and the church as a monolithic force of oppression, a system that actively suppressed rational thought, persecuted dissent, and kept the general population in a state of ignorance and superstition. He dreamed of a world free from this tyranny over the mind, a world where human beings could achieve their full potential, a state of moral and intellectual perfection, or illumination. He believed that if the best and brightest minds could be secretly educated in the principles of reason and liberty, they could gradually and peacefully infiltrate the corridors of power, the courts, the schools, the churches, the government, and over time, gently guide society towards a more enlightened and benevolent state. He did not dream of a violent revolution, but of a quiet intellectual one. But how could he achieve this in a state where such ideas were considered treasonous and heretical? Weishaupt knew that an open society dedicated to these principles would be crushed immediately. His only option was to go underground, to create a secret society, a vehicle for spreading his radical Enlightenment ideals under the cloak of secrecy. And so, on the night of May 1, 1776, a date that would later become significant to conspiracy theorists for its connection to May Day, Adam Weishaupt and four of his most trusted students gathered in a forest near Ingolstadt. There, by torchlight, they formally founded a new secret order. They initially called themselves the Covenant of Perfectibility, but they soon adopted a more evocative and mysterious name, the Order of the Illuminati. The name itself means the Enlightened Ones, a direct reflection of their goal to achieve intellectual and moral illumination, and to spread that light to the rest of the world. Weishaupt knew that a secret society of just 5 university students and their professor would have little influence. To grow his order and to spread its ideas, he needed a more effective strategy. He found the perfect vehicle for his ambitions in the already existing and widespread network of secret societies known as Freemasonry. Freemasonry in the 18th century was incredibly popular throughout Europe. Masonic lodges were a social hub for educated and influential men, a place where they could meet outside the strictures of class and religion to discuss ideas, engage in charitable work, and participate in elaborate rituals. While most of Freemasonry was not overtly political, its general emphasis on reason, brotherhood, and moral improvement made it a fertile recruiting ground for Weishaupt's more radical agenda. Weishaupt's strategy was brilliant and subversive. He would create a secret society within a secret society. He and his followers joined the Masonic lodges of Munich and other Bavarian cities. They presented themselves as dedicated Masons, rising through the ranks and earning the trust of their fellow lodge members. Once inside, they would identify the men who seemed most intelligent, most influential, and most sympathetic to the ideals of the Enlightenment. They would then discreetly approach these men and invite them into the secret higher degrees of Freemasonry, which were, in reality, the inner circle of the Illuminati. This tactic was incredibly successful. Many prominent and powerful mendukes, princes, government officials, military officers, and leading intellectuals were drawn to the promise of a deeper, more meaningful philosophy that the Illuminati seemed to offer. The order grew rapidly, spreading from Bavaria into other German states and across Europe, from Austria and Hungary to France and Italy. At its peak, the Illuminati may have had as many as 2,000 members, a significant network of some of the most influential men on the continent. To ensure the loyalty of its members and to protect its dangerous secrets, Weishaupt designed an elaborate and strict hierarchical structure for the order, a system heavily inspired by the Jesuit order he so despised. The Illuminati was organized like a pyramid, with a series of ascending grades or degrees. A new recruit, known as a novice, would know almost nothing about the true aims of the society. They were simply told that they were joining a group dedicated to making them better and more virtuous men. They were subjected to a period of intense study and surveillance. They had to submit detailed reports on their own character, their strengths, their weaknesses, their friends, and their enemies. They were, in effect, being psychologically profiled. If a novice proved himself worthy, he would be initiated into the next level, the Minerval class, named after Minerva, the Roman goddess of wisdom. Here, they would participate in structured discussions and study the works of classical and Enlightenment philosophers. As they progressed, they would move through a series of increasingly secret degrees, each one revealing a little more of the order's true radical philosophy. The higher degrees included titles like Illuminated Major, Illuminated Minor, and the Scottish Knight. Only those who reached the very highest Areopagite degree, the inner circle of the order, were let in on Weishaupt's ultimate secret, the goal of overthrowing all monarchies and established religions to create a new world order based on reason and universal brotherhood. This slow, gradual process of revelation was designed to indoctrinate the members, to ensure that only the most dedicated and trustworthy would ever learn the full, dangerous truth. This obsession with secrecy extended to every aspect of the order's operations. All communication was done in cipher. They used a complex system of codes and symbols to protect their correspondence from prying eyes. Members were also required to adopt a classical code name, or nom de guerre, to hide their true identities even from each other in the lower ranks. Adam Weishaupt himself took the name Spartacus, after the famous Roman slave who led a rebellion against the state. Other prominent members took names like Cato, Brutus, and Philo. They even developed a secret calendar, renaming the months and dating their letters according to a Persian system. This elaborate system of secrecy, with its hidden cells, its coded messages, and its secret identities, was necessary for the group's survival. But it was this very secrecy that would later be used as proof of their sinister and conspiratorial nature. For a few short years, the Illuminati flourished. Weishaupt's plan seemed to be working. His members were gaining influence in government, in the courts, and in the universities. They were secretly pushing for educational reforms, for greater religious tolerance, and for limitations on the power of the monarchy. They were, by their own standards, fighting a quiet war for the soul of the Enlightenment from within the very institutions they sought to change. But their rapid success was also the cause of their undoing. The order was not as secret as Weishaupt believed. Rumors began to circulate about this mysterious and radical group that had infiltrated the Masonic lodges. The more conservative factions within Freemasonry itself grew suspicious and hostile, seeing the Illuminati as a dangerous cuckoo in their nest. But their greatest enemies were the two institutions they had been created to oppose: the Bavarian state and the Catholic Church. The government of Bavaria, led by the Elector Karl Theodor, began to see the Illuminati as a profound threat to its authority, a nest of seditious republicans plotting treason. The Church, particularly the Jesuits who had been recently restored to power, saw them as godless atheists bent on destroying Christianity. The government began to investigate, and they soon found a wealth of evidence, thanks to internal disputes and betrayals within the Illuminati itself. A former member, Joseph Utzschneider, had a falling out with the leadership, and in a fit of anger, he turned over a trove of the order's secret documents and rituals to the authorities. The government now had the proof it needed. The documents revealed the Illuminati's hierarchical structure, its secret aims to undermine the state, and its members' private criticisms of the monarchy and the church. The crackdown was swift and severe. In 1785, Karl Theodor issued a formal edict that banned all secret societies in Bavaria, explicitly naming the Illuminati. A second edict the following year made membership in the order punishable by death. The authorities raided the homes of known members, seizing their papers and correspondence. Weishaupt himself was stripped of his university position and was forced to flee Bavaria, finding exile in the more liberal neighboring state of Gotha. Other members were arrested, imprisoned, or forced to publicly renounce the order. The Bavarian Illuminati, which had burned so brightly for a brief period, was effectively and completely crushed. After only a decade of existence, from its founding in 1776 to its suppression in 1785, the historical order of the Illuminati was officially dead. Its members were scattered, its leadership was in exile, and its organization was shattered. For all practical purposes, Weishaupt's grand and ambitious experiment was a failure. He had dreamed of a quiet revolution that would slowly enlighten the world over generations, but in the end, his order was exposed and destroyed in a matter of a few years. It seemed destined to become nothing more than a curious footnote in the history of the late Enlightenment, a cautionary tale about the dangers of radical ideas in a repressive age. But history had a different and far stranger fate in store for the Illuminati. The death of the historical order was not the end of the story. It was merely the end of the beginning. It was from the ashes of this real, short-lived, and ultimately failed group of Bavarian scholars that a new and far more powerful entity would be born: the mythical, all-powerful, and eternal Illuminati of global conspiracy theory. The year 1785 marked the official death of the historical Bavarian Illuminati. Its founder, Adam Weishaupt, was in exile, its members were scattered, and its secret papers had been seized and published by the Bavarian government for all to see. The order, which had dreamed of quietly reshaping the world, had been exposed and crushed in less than a decade. By all rational accounts, this should have been the end of the story. The Illuminati should have faded into history, remembered only by specialist historians as a curious and short-lived secret society of the late Enlightenment. But history is rarely so neat. The death of the real Illuminati was not an end, but a transformation. It was the moment the group ceased to be a historical reality and began its second life as a powerful and enduring myth. From the ashes of Weishaupt's failed experiment, a new and far more terrifying entity would be born: the mythical, all-powerful and eternal Illuminati of global conspiracy theory. The birth of this conspiracy myth was not an accident. It was a direct consequence of the great, world-shaking cataclysm that was about to engulf Europe. The catalyst for this transformation was the French Revolution. Just 4 years after the Bavarian government had officially stamped out the Illuminati, the Bastille was stormed in Paris in 1789, igniting a revolution that would not only overthrow the French monarchy but would also send shockwaves of terror through every royal court in Europe. The French Revolution was a complex and multifaceted event, the result of decades of deep-seated social inequality, economic hardship, crippling government debt, and the powerful new ideas of liberty and individual rights that had been championed by the Enlightenment. It was a perfect storm of social, political, and intellectual forces that finally erupted into a violent and chaotic upheaval. But for the crowned heads and the established aristocracies of Europe, this complex reality was too terrifying to contemplate. To admit that the revolution was a popular uprising, a justifiable response to centuries of oppression and mismanagement, would be to admit their own vulnerability. It would be to acknowledge that the same thing could happen in their own kingdoms. They desperately needed another explanation, a simpler and less threatening narrative that could account for the chaos in France. They needed a scapegoat, a hidden hand, a secret cabal of evil masterminds who had deliberately orchestrated the entire revolution to serve their own nefarious ends. And in the recently exposed and sensationalized story of the Bavarian Illuminati, they found the perfect villain for their story. The groundwork for the great conspiracy theory was laid by two very different men, working independently but coming to the exact same shocking conclusion. The first was a distinguished Scottish academic named John Robison. Robison was a respected professor of natural philosophy at the University of Edinburgh, a scientist who had worked with James Watt on the steam engine, and a man who was, ironically, a high-ranking Freemason himself. In 1797, he published a book with a long and dramatic title, Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe, carried on in the secret meetings of Freemasons, Illuminati, and reading societies. In his book, Robison argued that he had uncovered a vast and sinister plot. He claimed that the radical, anti-religious, and anti-monarchist ideas of the Bavarian Illuminati had not been extinguished in 1785. Instead, he proposed, the order had simply gone deeper underground, and its members had secretly infiltrated and corrupted the respectable lodges of Freemasonry across Europe, particularly in France. He believed they had transformed the Masonic lodges from gentle fraternal societies into hotbeds of revolution, using their secret network to spread their seditious ideas, and to carefully plan the overthrow of the French king. For Robison, the French Revolution was not a spontaneous popular movement. It was the direct, calculated result of the Illuminati's secret war against civilization. At the exact same time, on the other side of the English Channel, a French Jesuit priest named Augustin Bérulle, who had fled the anti-clerical terror of the Revolution, was coming to an identical conclusion. In 1797, he began publishing his own multi-volume work, Memoirs illustrating the history of Jacobinism. Like Robison, Bérulle argued that the French Revolution was the culmination of a meticulously planned conspiracy. He traced the plot back to the Enlightenment philosophers, whose atheistic and anti-monarchical writings had laid the ideological groundwork. But he claimed that the real operational masterminds, the ones who had put the plan into action, were the members of the Bavarian Illuminati. He too believed that Weishaupt's order had secretly fused with Freemasonry, creating a powerful invisible army of revolutionaries. He saw the Jacobin clubs, the most radical political groups of the French Revolution, as the public face of this secret Illuminati Masonic conspiracy. His work was a detailed, passionate, and terrifying account of how a small group of German conspirators had managed to bring down the most powerful monarchy in Europe. Together, the books by Robison and Bérulle created the foundational myth of the Illuminati conspiracy. Their theory was powerful because it was both simple and all-encompassing. It offered a single neat explanation for a series of incredibly complex and messy historical events. It provided a clear villain, a shadowy them, who could be blamed for everything. And it was deeply frightening, suggesting that this powerful secret organization was still out there, continuing its work, and that no government or religion was safe. The books were international bestsellers, translated into multiple languages and read avidly by a terrified European elite who were desperate for an explanation for the chaos that surrounded them. The image of the Illuminati was transformed. They were no longer a small failed group of Bavarian idealists. They were now seen as a diabolical and terrifyingly successful secret society of puppet masters who had already toppled one great nation and were now setting their sights on the rest of the world. This powerful new conspiracy theory did not remain confined to Europe for long. It quickly jumped the Atlantic and found fertile ground in the young and anxious Republic of the United States. In the late 1790s, America was in a state of intense political turmoil. The nation was deeply divided between the Federalist Party, led by figures like Alexander Hamilton, who favored a strong central government and closer ties with Great Britain, and the Democratic Republican Party, led by Thomas Jefferson, who championed states' rights, individual liberty, and was sympathetic to the ideals of the French Revolution. In this heated and paranoid political climate, the story of the Illuminati conspiracy arrived like a match thrown into a powder keg. The primary vehicle for spreading the theory in America was a prominent and highly respected Congregationalist minister from Massachusetts named Jedediah Morse. Morse was a staunch Federalist and a deeply conservative religious figure. He was terrified by the anti-clerical and seemingly atheistic turn of the French Revolution, and he saw the pro-French sympathies of Thomas Jefferson and his party as a profound threat to the Christian foundations of the American Republic. In 1798, after reading John Robeson's book, Morse took to the pulpit and delivered a series of thunderous, sensational sermons. He warned his congregations, and by extension the entire nation, that the Illuminati conspiracy had not stopped in France. He claimed that the secret society had already sent its agents to America, that they had established secret lodges, and that they were actively plotting to infiltrate the government, to overthrow the Constitution, and to eradicate Christianity in the United States, just as they had done in France. Morse's sermons created the first great Illuminati panic in America. His warnings were reprinted in newspapers across the country, sparking a wave of fear and paranoia. Other conservative ministers and politicians joined the chorus, blaming the Illuminati for everything from social unrest to the decline in church attendance. They saw the secret hand of the Illuminati behind the political activities of their Jeffersonian rivals, accusing them of being unwitting dupes or even secret members of the conspiracy. Even George Washington was drawn into the affair. He was sent a copy of Robeson's book, and in a letter responding to the sender, he acknowledged the diabolical tenets of the Illuminati but stated his belief that they had not gained a foothold in the Masonic lodges of America. Despite Washington's skepticism, the panic continued for several years. The Illuminati became a boogeyman in American political discourse, a convenient label to pin on one's political opponents, a symbol of foreign corruption and atheistic terror. Eventually, the first Illuminati panic subsided. As the political turmoil of the 1790s calmed down and no evidence of an actual Illuminati plot in America ever emerged, the theory receded from the mainstream and went back underground. But the damage was done. The myth had been created and had taken root. The historical Adam Weishaupt and his small group of Bavarian intellectuals had been completely and irrevocably transformed in the public imagination. They were no longer seen as Enlightenment idealists who had failed. They were now seen as shadowy, satanic conspirators who had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. The legend created by Robeson and Berulle, born out of the fear and chaos of the French Revolution, had given the Illuminati a second life, an immortality that the real Weishaupt could never have achieved. They had become a permanent fixture in the paranoid underworld of conspiracy thinking, a phantom enemy whose secret influence could be seen behind every revolution, every war, and every challenge to the established order. The short 10-year history of the real Bavarian Illuminati was over, but the long and seemingly endless history of the mythical Illuminati had just begun. The conspiracy theories born from the ashes of the French Revolution transformed the historical Bavarian Illuminati from a failed group of Enlightenment thinkers into a powerful, shadowy myth. For over a century, this myth simmered in the underground currents of political paranoia and esoteric thought. But in the 20th and 21st centuries, fueled by the rise of mass media, the internet, and a growing distrust of mainstream institutions, the Illuminati myth exploded into a global phenomenon. The modern conspiracy theory is a vast and sprawling creation, a super conspiracy that has evolved far beyond the original claims of Robison and Barrow. The modern all-seeing eye Illuminati is no longer just a group that plotted the French Revolution. It is a timeless, all-powerful, and utterly malevolent cabal that has secretly controlled the entire course of human history. To understand this modern myth is to enter a world of hidden symbols, secret puppet masters, and a grand, overarching plot to enslave all of humanity. At the very core of the modern conspiracy theory is the belief that the Illuminati are the ultimate puppet masters. In this worldview, the major events of world history are not the result of complex social forces, economic pressures, or political chance. They are all deliberately and meticulously orchestrated by this single secret group. The Illuminati are seen as an ancient and unbroken bloodline, a hereditary elite that has been passing down its secret knowledge and its plan for world domination for centuries, perhaps even millennia. They are believed to have started every major war, from the Napoleonic Wars to the World Wars of the 20th century, and even the recent conflicts in the Middle East. These wars, it is claimed, are not fought for the reasons we are told, not for ideology, not for resources, not for national defense. They are engineered by the Illuminati to create chaos, to generate immense profits from war financing and arms manufacturing, and to gradually break down the sovereignty of individual nations, paving the way for a single global government under their direct control. Financial crises and economic depressions are also seen as their handiwork. The Great Depression of the 1930s, the oil crisis of the 1970s, the stock market crash of 2008 all are interpreted not as failures of the economic system, but as a deliberate manipulation of global markets by the Illuminati's banking dynasties. The goal is to consolidate wealth and power into their own hands, and to create a population that is economically dependent and therefore easier to control. The ultimate aim of all this manipulation, the grand culmination of their centuries-long plan, is the creation of a new world order. This term, which was once used by politicians to describe a new era of international cooperation, has been co-opted by conspiracy theorists to mean something far more sinister: a totalitarian, one-world government. In this new world order, national sovereignty will be erased, individual liberties will be abolished, and the entire human population will be controlled through mass surveillance, a cashless society, and technological manipulation, all ruled over by the enlightened and utterly ruthless elite of the Illuminati. They are, in this telling, the hidden architects of our past and the shadowy designers of our future, the invisible hand guiding all of human history towards their own dark and final endgame. To prove the existence of this vast, centuries-old conspiracy, modern theorists point to a rich and complex web of hidden symbols, which they believe the Illuminati has deliberately placed in plain sight as a sign of their power and influence. And the most famous, most ubiquitous, and most powerful of these symbols is the all-seeing eye hovering over an unfinished pyramid, an image that is best known for its prominent position on the back of the United States $1 bill. For conspiracy theorists, this single image is the ultimate smoking gun, the undeniable proof that the Illuminati secretly controlled the founding of the United States and has been the hidden power behind the American government ever since. The pyramid, they argue, represents the hierarchical structure of their order, with the enlightened elite at the top, ruling over the ignorant masses at the base. The all-seeing eye is the eye of their god, often identified with Lucifer or a generic great architect, the eye that watches over and guides their grand plan. The Latin inscriptions on the dollar bill are also interpreted as a secret code. Annuit coeptis, they claim, means, he the eye has favored our undertakings. And Novus Ordo Seclorum is translated not as a new order of the ages, its intended meaning, but as New World Order, a direct statement of their ultimate goal. The fact that this symbol, so perfectly aligned with their supposed ideology, is printed on the world's most powerful currency is seen as an act of incredible arrogance, a way of stamping their ownership on the very engine of the global economy. However, the historical reality of this symbol is far more mundane. The Eye of Providence, as it is properly known, was a common and well-established icon in the 17th and 18th centuries. It was used by artists and architects of the Renaissance and Baroque periods to represent the omniscience and benevolence of the Christian God. It was also adopted by the Freemasons as a symbol of the great architect of the universe, a representation of divine oversight. It was never, at any point, a symbol used by the historical Bavarian Illuminati. In fact, the design for the Great Seal of the United States, which includes the pyramid and eye, was created in 1782, 3 years before the Illuminati was even banned, and at a time when its influence outside of Bavaria was negligible. The decision to place the seal on the dollar bill was not made until 1935, under President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The connection between this symbol and the historical Illuminati is a complete fabrication, a modern invention created by conspiracy theorists who have projected their own ideas onto a common historical icon. But for a true believer, this historical context is irrelevant. The symbol's presence on the dollar bill is all the proof they need. The search for hidden symbols does not stop with the dollar bill. In the modern iteration of the theory, the Illuminati's influence is seen as being particularly pervasive in the world of mass media and popular culture. The entertainment industry, Hollywood, the music industry, and even the world of high fashion is believed to be completely controlled by the order. It is seen as a powerful tool for mass indoctrination, a way to subtly condition the public to accept the Illuminati's symbols, their values, and their eventual New World Order. Conspiracy theorists spend countless hours meticulously analyzing music videos, award show performances, blockbuster movies, and even corporate logos, searching for hidden Illuminati symbolism. The recurring motifs they look for are now a well-established part of the conspiracy canon. The pyramid and the all-seeing eye are the most common. A celebrity covering one eye with their hand is interpreted as a salute to the all-seeing eye, a sign that they have sold their soul to the order in exchange for fame and fortune. The triangle or pyramid shape, whether formed by a hand gesture or appearing in a background design, is seen as another sign of allegiance. The goat-headed figure of Baphomet, a deity the original Knights Templar were falsely accused of worshipping, has been adopted by the modern myth as the key symbol of the Illuminati's supposed satanic core. The appearance of owls, a symbol of the goddess Minerva, which the historical Illuminati did use, checkerboard patterns, a common Masonic symbol, and the number 666 are all woven into this vast symbolic web. When a major celebrity like Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Lady Gaga, or Madonna uses any of this imagery in a performance, often deliberately, as a way to play with the conspiracy theory itself, it is seized upon as undeniable proof. The artists are seen as either willing high-level members of the Illuminati, using their platform to spread its symbolism, or as mind-controlled puppets, MKUltra slaves who are forced to embed these symbols into their work by their hidden handlers. The entire entertainment industry is reimagined as a gigantic brainwashing machine, and the conspiracy theorist becomes the heroic decoder, the one who can see the hidden messages that the sheep-like masses are blindly consuming. Over the past few decades, the Illuminati myth has proven to be incredibly adaptive and resilient, a kind of super conspiracy that has the power to absorb and assimilate almost any other conspiracy theory into its own narrative. It has become a grand, unifying theory of everything that is wrong with the world. The original theory of Robison and Berulle, which focused on the French Revolution, now seems almost quaint. The modern myth has shapeshifted, its tentacles reaching into every corner of paranoid thought. For example, the Illuminati conspiracy has merged with the theories of David Icke, who claims that the world is secretly run by a race of shapeshifting, blood-drinking reptilian aliens. In this hybrid theory, the elite bloodlines of the Illuminati are, in fact, the human-reptilian hybrids who have been controlling humanity for millennia. The myth has also absorbed the tenets of Satanism and occultism. The Illuminati are no longer just secular rationalists who oppose the church. They are now depicted as active devil worshippers, performing dark, bloody rituals to gain power from demonic entities. Their secret meetings are imagined as satanic orgies, their goals aligned with bringing about the reign of the Antichrist. The Illuminati myth has also reached back in time, claiming historical lineage from other powerful and mysterious groups. Many theories now connect the Illuminati directly to the Knights Templar, suggesting that the Illuminati was a continuation of the Templar Order after it was forced underground in the 14th century. They are also linked to other secret societies like the Rosicrucians, the Skull and Bones Society at Yale University, and even the ancient Gnostic cults of the Roman Empire. In the present day, the theory has assimilated modern secretive groups like the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and the Council on Foreign Relations, reimagining them not as simple think tanks or policy forms, but as modern front organizations for the Illuminati's ongoing plot for a new world order. This ability to absorb any and all other conspiracies is what makes the modern Illuminati myth so powerful and so impossible to disprove to a true believer. It is no longer a single, falsifiable claim. It is a complete, self-contained worldview, a lens through which all of history and all current events can be interpreted. Any event that happens in the world, no matter how complex or random, can be neatly fitted into the narrative as another step in the Illuminati's grand plan. Any evidence that contradicts the theory is dismissed as disinformation, spread by the Illuminati themselves to cover their tracks. The conspiracy becomes a perfect closed loop of logic, a belief system that is completely immune to any form of external rational critique. It is a faith, not a theory. The modern Illuminati has become the ultimate phantom menace, a shape-shifting, all-encompassing symbol for the hidden forces that many people feel are controlling their lives. We have traced the incredible journey of the Illuminati, from a real short-lived historical society of Bavarian scholars to a global all-encompassing conspiracy myth of immense power and complexity. We have seen how the fears generated by the French Revolution transformed the group into a scapegoat for political turmoil, and how, over the next 2 centuries, this myth grew and mutated, absorbing new symbols and new theories until it became the super conspiracy we know today. But this still leaves us with the most fundamental question of all. Why? Why does this particular legend endure with such incredible tenacity? The historical Bavarian Illuminati was a real but ultimately insignificant group that was crushed almost immediately. The evidence connecting them to the French Revolution is circumstantial at best, and the evidence for their continued existence into the modern day is non-existent. And yet, the belief persists. The legend of the Illuminati continues to captivate millions of people, to fuel a vast online subculture, and to serve as a powerful explanation for world events. The endurance of this myth cannot be explained by the evidence for it, because there is none. Instead, its power lies in what it provides to the believer. The legend of the Illuminati endures because it speaks to some of our deepest and most powerful human psychological needs. The need to find order in a chaotic world, the seductive appeal of secret knowledge, the brain's innate tendency to find patterns where none exist, and finally, the simple, undeniable power of a good story. The first, and perhaps most important, reason for the myth's persistence is that it provides a simple and deeply comforting sense of order in what often feels like a random, chaotic, and frightening world. Human history is a messy, complex, and often brutal affair. Wars erupt for a multitude of convoluted reasons, from economic disputes to ethnic tensions to the simple, blundering miscalculations of political leaders. Financial markets crash due to a complex interplay of greed, fear, and intricate systemic failures that even experts do not fully understand. Pandemics spread, natural disasters strike, and beloved public figures die unexpectedly. For many people, the sheer randomness and complexity of these events can be overwhelming and deeply unsettling. It can lead to a feeling of powerlessness, a sense that we are all just corks bobbing on a vast, indifferent, and chaotic ocean. The Illuminati conspiracy theory offers a powerful antidote to this existential anxiety. It takes the terrifying chaos of the world and imposes upon it a single, simple, and overarching order. In the world of the conspiracy theorist, nothing is random. Nothing is an accident. Every major event, no matter how tragic or confusing, is part of a plan. The war did not happen by chance. It was deliberately started by the Illuminati to profit from it. The financial crash was not a systemic failure. It was a controlled demolition orchestrated by the Illuminati's bankers. The popular celebrity's sudden death was not a tragic accident or an overdose. It was a ritual sacrifice or a targeted assassination by the Illuminati to silence them. This worldview, while terrifying in its own way, is also strangely comforting. It replaces the cold, indifferent chaos of reality with the hot, malevolent intelligence of a hidden enemy. It is paradoxically easier for the human mind to accept a world run by a single, evil, all-powerful group than to accept a world with no one in control at all. At least in the former, there is a plan. There is a reason. There is someone to blame. The Illuminati becomes a single, unifying explanation for all the world's suffering. A simple answer that cuts through the confusing and often painful complexities of real life. It provides a sense of certainty in an uncertain world. This leads to the second and deeply seductive, psychological appeal of the Illuminati myth. The belief in a hidden cabal secretly controlling the world mirrors a very ancient and powerful form of religious and philosophical thought known as Gnosticism. Gnosticism, which flourished in the early centuries of the Christian era, was a complex set of beliefs, but its core idea was that the material world we live in is a corrupt and evil place, a prison created not by a benevolent God, but by a lesser malevolent deity known as the Demiurge. The Gnostics believed that the true, good God existed in a spiritual realm far beyond our own, and that humanity was a divine spark trapped within the prison of the material world. The only way to achieve salvation, they argued, was to attain gnosis, a Greek word meaning knowledge. But this was not ordinary intellectual knowledge. It was a secret, revealed, intuitive knowledge of the true nature of reality, an understanding that the world was a lie, and that they were spiritual prisoners. The modern conspiracy theorist is, in many ways, a modern-day Gnostic. The world they see is also a corrupt and evil prison, a matrix of lies and deception. But their demiurge, their malevolent creator, is the Illuminati. The Illuminati has created the false reality that the sheeple, the ignorant masses, accept as truth. The conspiracy theorists sees themselves as one of the enlightened few, one of the awakened, who has achieved a special form of gnosis. They have taken the red pill, and can now see the hidden codes, the secret symbols, and the true sinister workings of the world that are invisible to everyone else. This provides an immense and deeply satisfying psychological boost. It transforms the believer from an ordinary person into a heroic figure, a kind of intellectual resistance fighter. They are no longer just a passive consumer of information. They are a decoder, a researcher, a digital soldier in a great information war against the most powerful and evil forces in history. This sense of possessing a secret, forbidden knowledge is incredibly empowering. It provides a sense of purpose, of community with other awakened believers online, and of superiority over the ignorant masses who have not yet seen the light. The Illuminati myth endures because it is not just a theory. It is a complete spiritual and psychological identity. The third reason for the legend's powerful grip on the human mind is a fundamental feature of our cognitive wiring, a phenomenon known as apophenia or patternicity. The human brain is a pattern-finding machine. It evolved on the African savanna, where the ability to quickly spot a pattern, the shape of a predator hiding in the tall grass, the tracks of an animal leading to water, was a crucial survival skill. We are hardwired to connect the dots, to find meaningful patterns even in random or unrelated data. This is a very useful trait, but it can sometimes go into overdrive. Apophenia is the tendency to see meaningful connections where none exist. We see faces in the clouds, we hear hidden messages when a record is played backwards, and we find conspiracies in random historical events. The modern Illuminati conspiracy theory is a masterclass in apophenia. It is built upon a vast and ever-expanding web of supposed connections. The conspiracy theorist sees the world as a text filled with hidden clues, and they are the expert cryptographer who can decipher them. They will find the shape of a trianglia pyramidon, a corporate logo, and immediately connect it to the Illuminati. They will see a celebrity momentarily cover one eye and connect it to the all-seeing eye. They will take the number of a new piece of legislation, perform a series of arbitrary mathematical operations on it, and triumphantly reveal that it adds up to 13 or 666. They will draw lines on a map connecting the locations of recent tragedies and declare that they form a pentagram. They are not necessarily being dishonest or deliberately fabricating evidence. Their brains are genuinely performing the function they were designed for. They are finding patterns. The problem is that they are finding them in a sea of random noise, and then assigning them a profound and sinister meaning. This process is fueled by the powerful engine of confirmation bias. Once a person begins to believe in the Illuminati conspiracy, they will start to actively look for evidence that confirms their belief, while unconsciously ignoring or dismissing the vast amount of evidence that contradicts it. Every new music video, every new political speech, every new world event is scanned for potential clues. Because the symbols of the Illuminati triangles, eyes, numbers are so common and generic, a dedicated researcher is almost guaranteed to find them everywhere they look. Each discovery of a hidden symbol then acts as another piece of proof, another confirmation that the theory is correct, reinforcing the belief in a self-perpetuating cycle. The Illuminati legend, therefore, is not just a story. It is a cognitive trap, a powerful illusion created by the very wiring of our own brains. Finally, and perhaps most simply, the legend of the Illuminati endures because it has transcended its origins as a historical event or even a specific conspiracy theory. It has become a powerful and self-sustaining cultural meme. It is a story, and it is a fantastically good one. It has all the elements of a great thriller. A secret society of powerful men, a grand plot for world domination, hidden symbols, ancient bloodlines, and a heroic struggle between the forces of darkness and the few brave souls who know the truth. It is a narrative that is far more exciting, more romantic, and more emotionally satisfying than the dry and complex realities of history and geopolitics. In the age of the internet, this story has spread like a virus, becoming a shared piece of cultural shorthand. The term Illuminati is now often used as a joke, a meme to be applied to any strange or powerful event. When the lights go out at the Super Bowl, the internet immediately erupts with jokes that the Illuminati did it. When a celebrity makes a strange hand gesture, it becomes an Illuminati-confirmed meme. This constant, often ironic, repetition in popular culture has a strange effect. It keeps the core concepts of the legend, the secret cabal, the symbols, the idea of hidden control constantly circulating in our collective consciousness. Even when used as a joke, it reinforces the legend's familiarity. It becomes part of the cultural air we breathe. This transformation into a cultural meme gives the legend a life of its own, completely divorced from the question of whether anyone truly believes it. The Illuminati has become a modern archetype, a symbol that can be used and remixed in endless ways in movies, music, video games, and online culture. It no longer needs a foundation in historical fact, because it has built its own foundation in the shared landscape of our global imagination. It endures not because it is true, but because it is a powerful and endlessly fascinating story. In conclusion, the journey of the Illuminati from a small Bavarian reading group to a global superconspiracy is a profound lesson in the power of myth. The legend's incredible endurance has very little to do with the actual historical evidence, and everything to do with the deep-seated psychological and social needs that it fulfills. It provides a sense of order and meaning in a chaotic world. It offers its believers the empowering feeling of possessing secret, Gnostic knowledge. It plays upon our brain's innate tendency to find patterns and connections, creating a self-reinforcing loop of belief. And it has become a powerful cultural meme. A story so good that it continues to replicate itself throughout our media and our minds. The historical Illuminati died in 1785, but the mythical Illuminati is immortal. It will likely endure as long as humanity continues to grapple with its deepest fears. The fear of the unknown, the fear of chaos, and the chilling, persistent fear that the world we see is not the real world at all, and that someone else, someone hidden in the shadows, is secretly pulling all the strings. The journey of the Illuminati is a story of transformation. A small group of Enlightenment idealists, crushed after only a decade, was resurrected by fear and propaganda into a mythical cabal that secretly rules the world. The legend endures not because of the evidence, but because it provides a simple answer to a complex question. Who is in control? It's a powerful reminder that sometimes, the most enduring secret society is the one we create in our own minds. If the past still whispers to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ancient Relics Keeper, because some mysteries were never meant to be buried.